Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, July 16th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming here from the Lowell 𝐿𝐼𝐴 Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell, and excited today to be joined by none other than the mayor of the city of Lowell. Usually I've got the former mayor, Bill Samaras, in here with me. He had a last-minute scheduling conflict, couldn't make it, but we'll take the current mayor. I think we can find stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Lowell mayor.
Thanks for having me today, Teddy. Yeah, I think Samaras is ducking me today. Right?
He probably doesn't want to have a high school discussion if I know Bill. But actually, he was bummed. He was really bummed. He loves you. You know that? Whatever happened in 2017 or whatever, I know you guys have been collaborating on Cawley Stadium. There's actually some stuff happening. I ran into Matt LaLatra last week. A lot of good stuff happening there. Great stuff happening throughout the city. Frontrunner City. Last night you attended that Mass Department of Transportation session regarding the Rourke Bridge, so we want to talk about that. Hell, I'll even talk about cement sidewalks with you if you have a few extra minutes at the end. We'll begin our discussion with Lowell Mayor Dan Rourke in a quick second. First, let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsors, if I can. I will anyway. So Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, the one person you need to talk to is Ray Booten. And you can find him online easily enough at realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thank you to WellPoint. Thanks, Ray. We'll thank the other sponsors in a little bit. You want to do a 1-minute commercial for WellPoint like Jerry?
I know. I thought yesterday. Jeez, yeah.
Jeez,
he looked great yesterday. Good for him. Yeah.
Jerry looks really good. He's lost a lot of weight. He looks good. He looks vibrant. He looks healthy. So it's good.
You know why? He's on the radio anymore.
Yeah, I aged, 40 years in those 15. But all right. So have you had a chance to kind of exhale and kind of gather your thoughts from what happened last week, the 3-day visit of that international delegation from the Frontrunner City? You guys have been working, with you in particular, since last September when you went to Toronto. But I know behind the scenes there's been a ton of stuff going on. But I feel like last week, Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday, the public kind of got its first glimpse of this. Have you had a chance to kind of gather your thoughts now and see how, where are you? What are you thinking? Did that last week go as well as it felt to some of us, as well as you hoped?
Yeah, I was talking to the manager about it on Monday. We had a quick little debriefing conversation about it. And it's every time we either visit them or we do a Zoom, or they came to see us last week, we just get more and more excited about it. And the question that I have received a ton over the past 8-9 months is this real? Is this something that could honestly happen? Is this just a sister city thing or something? And I hope that last week, when the visit from the delegation from the UEF came, people really started to witness and see what the possibilities are, what the opportunities for the city of Lowell. And everything that we've been doing all along, the countless visits and, the Zooms, and finally when they came down last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it was exciting to be able to show the city off, to see where we have been, where we are now, and where we want to be in the future. And then when they get into the details, into the weeds of the discussion, listening to the presentation that DPD gave with 𝐿𝐼𝐴 and 𝐃𝐚𝐬𝐥𝐲, which was just top notch, outstanding, and then talking to the developers, and then we went over to UMass Lowell, and the Chancellor Julie Chen was there, and she gave a dynamite presentation. That's right, you were there too, right? Yeah,
unbelievable. And she's good.
Yeah.
She touched on every point that they wanted.
Tremendous,
to hear.
right?
It was awesome.
And then for how great Julie was, then Edouard gets up there and really blows the room away, right? Every time that guy spoke, you learn something new. Talk about being, intelligent, charismatic, and being like he's not a front man. He's probably the man, but he was really great, And Cameron and Sam, they also came from the UEF. And what I liked was, at some point in time, from last Tuesday until Friday, every counselor was involved at some point, right? But the conversations that the three of them would have with individual counselors, learning about them, what they're looking for, was really you can tell this wasn't their first rodeo for these guys, right? And it really, I think, opened the council's eyes even wider. And to me, and I know to the manager, it really is something that we hope to capitalize on. We have another Zoom meeting tomorrow where we hope to set some dates for the future, and it's an exciting opportunity for the city of Lowell.
Yeah, and you touched on something that kind of hit me last week, because folks they thought this is like that Kalamata sister city thing, or the Dublin.
More than once. Right.
Yeah. If I'm hearing it, I'm sure you're hearing it, but this I thought was so much bigger, and it was actually bigger than I even imagined last week. I want to talk about the next steps, but I got to make sure we go back to the beginning of this, because it's a remarkable story that's kind of a combination of luck, but an awful lot of skill and maybe decades of preparation that went into it. But you mentioned Friday. I didn't know somebody was here Friday.
So
what happened Friday that you guys kept out of the meeting?
Your man crush, Eduardo Moreno, he stayed an extra night.
Oh, Eduardo stuck around an extra day. Did he ask about me?
And we said, hey, do you want to grab breakfast, get some lunch? You want to go anywhere? He's like, no. He's wanted to be here by himself. He wanted to explore the city on his own.
No kidding. He
wanted to talk to people. He wanted to just get the vibe of the city of Lowell. And I'll tell you, a quick story. I was talking to Councilor Belanger on Monday. And he had said, hey, I was downtown on Friday night on 6:30, just walking around and, talking to people. And all of a sudden I turned around and Eduardo was right there.
It's a summer music. Did he go to the summer music series show?
Yeah, he was here.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And again, it was just, one of those things where, these guys ain't here for, a one-trick pony show or something. They are invested into the city. They want to see us do well. And I think this partnership is going to be tremendous.
All right. I mentioned that Urban Economy Forum 6. I guess now I even know the number. It was Urban Economy Forum 6 last year in Toronto. At the end of September, Urban Economy Forum 7 is in October this year in Toronto. You guys are going, right?
Yes. Yep.
All right. I mentioned that as kind of what got the ball rolling, but it actually started with a magazine interview. You did an online magazine interview. Take us through the origins of this and how everything kind of came about for Lowell to be the Frontrunner City instead of any place else in America.
Sure. So last first got sworn in January, and obviously with a new mayor, and I'm sure for anybody, it's a wild time. You're busy and schedule wise and this and that. And then one day, just get a phone call from Capital Analytics. They're an innovation business commercial magazine, and they wanted to talk about Lowell. And you say, okay, sure. What about? And then they had picked up along the way of how we're improving things, how we're trying to bring businesses in, our higher education system, the quality of life within the city, and so it was basically it was a Zoom interview that we conducted over a couple of days, and I thought that the magazine article that they put out was excellent, and we ended up going to Boston, UMass, the President's Club out in Boston for the unveiling, and they really a lot of it was Lowell centric. Talking about it, and then shortly thereafter, we get some communication and email from the Urban Economic Forum up in Toronto, stating that hey, we saw the article in Capital Analytics. Would you be interested in coming to our forum over the next 3 days in September at the time, and just talk about your city?
So these guys, because I had never heard of Capital Analytics, but it was a nice spread. I thought, this must be good. I did a little research on the background, so I published, a story about it, but I didn't really grasp how big it was.
I had 2.5 million subscribers, whether it be online or in print. And again,
did you know this when you said because you said that you spent a couple of days doing an interview via Zoom?
So
did you know this ahead of time?
I did not know. I never heard of analytics, but I talked to Giovanni Baez-Rose, our DPD director, and a couple other people within her department, and they knew what it was right away. And they said, I think it'd be a good opportunity for the city to get involved and to get some spotlight on us. So, through that came the invite up to Toronto in September when April and I went up there for 3 days. So I just, hey, am I going to go and just, stamp my hand and I'll go watch? He's like, no, you're going to present about your city. So then, okay, great. and then, but along the way in doing preparation for the speech I gave, it really became easy to talk about Lowell. you know, we talk about all our history, and we were first in many different areas. Then you get into Wang, and then you get into where we are now, and the higher with Middlesex Community College, one of the best community colleges in the country, and UMass Lowell, which top-notch STEM program. All that stuff went into the national park. All this stuff that we went into and ended up going on for about 10, 15 minutes, which for me is a long, long time, right? And it was very well received afterwards. It was, and then I went around. A couple of presenters came up, and then a couple of gentlemen took the stage, and they started talking about the Frontrunner City program, of how Toronto was the first in the world to enter into this program, which was about 3 or 4 years earlier. And they talked about the revitalization that they did, the urban revitalization they did in Toronto, and all the areas of crime and downtrodden stuff like that. And they turned it around. So just went up to the two guys that were there and said, hey, look at Dan Rourke, Mayor Lowell, and did you hear my speech 5 to 10 minutes ago? He goes, oh yeah, it was great, it was awesome. And I said, hey, if you have any time over the next couple of days, could we grab a beer or something, or a coffee in the morning? So the next night, April and I went out with the two guys in the Frontrunner City program, and we started talking about who what we are, what we like to do, and how could this program benefit us. And then we started getting into the deep stuff of how sustainability goals and all these things that maybe were a little over my head. So I was really if you check my phone between those 3 days between myself and Giovanni from the city, it was just could we do this? Yes. Could you do this? Yes, yes. And we ended up I think it was maybe 11 or 12 out of the 17 sustainability goals that we had already achieved. And to achieve the last 3 or 4 they thought was a matter of time, not a matter of being impossible or not. So we just said, okay, great. Exchanged cards. We kept in touch. And then we had our, I brought to the city council to say, hey, look, this is the opportunity that we have. Do we want to, take a vote and go forward with it? And again, that was unanimously passed. And I just want to stress the importance of the buy-in, right, on the city's behalf and on the council's behalf. They have been tremendous with this whole process. I can get into the last 3 days last week with some of the councils later on, but it was, they said, yes, go for it. Let's give it a shot. So we took a contingent of the city council and the city administration to Toronto in November of last year, where we toured Toronto, we toured the pavilion within the city, and he discussed what's involved, what needs to be done, timelines and this and that. And I think all of us that went up there were just really shocked, number one, of what could happen. And obviously when you see examples of what they did up there, automatically in your mind you say, how does this help the city of Lowell, right? Over those 3 days, we saw a ton of stuff. I mean, we landed our plane, I think maybe at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were in meetings until 10 o'clock that night. It was interesting to listen to, obviously not being an expert in these areas, but to hear the back and forth and the possibilities and the presentations that they gave us was really interesting, I think, to the council. So we came back, again, had another discussion about it. Do we want to be a candidate for the Frontrunner City process? And then it was a unanimous yes to do so. And then the manager and I went up there in January and signed the first of memorandum of agreements in place, which is just another step in the process. And then again, we've been constantly communicating back and forth. And again, I know that I've said it many times. I'll say it again. What Giovanni Baez-Rose and Camille Espada have done with this process, and you've seen some of the stuff they have put in place, so the presentations that they have given, everything is scale specific. So, if you see a 10, 12-story Gallagher terminal building, like that is designed to fit that space. It's not just some pie in the sky thought. So, again, back and forth, and they said, hey, we want to come see you now. We want to see what Lowell is in person and what you guys are all about, And they came down the last 3 days, last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and like I said, Eduardo stayed on Friday, and it was just a tremendous job by the manager and his team of putting together, 3 action-packed days of just information sharing, showing off the city, what we do, what we can be, what we want to be. It was just really, very well done. So. Even over this past weekend on Saturday night, we started getting text messages back and forth between the group and us, and I think what gentleman Cameron was there, right? Cameron was one of the guys that came from the UEF, and he said, Dan, when you left Toronto the last time with Tom, we were 75 100% sure that Lowell was our pick in the United States. After the trip, now we're 110% sure that Lowell is the pick for us.
So this was not a done deal prior to last week completely, even though there was an MOU signed.
MOA and MOU. So I guess it's two different.
Okay.
I just know it's two, right? So, when we did the memorandum of agreement, this was, if we do these things, we could qualify to be a program. And one of the things that we're still working on is, their version of a profile. It's similar to a master plan. We're gonna have to tweak our master plan a little bit to fit the criteria for it. You talking back to prior councils and prior managers and all that other stuff. This master plan has been working on this for almost 2 years. Right, so when that was completed and it was accepted by the city council, a lot of what we need to do and establish is already done in that plan. So they said to us in meetings last week, so look, you guys are almost there, so let's try to get this done by October. Let's try to get this done by November, and then to really get the ball rolling. So I know that they're working on that probably right now as we speak, and it's all gearing up, hopefully towards a September trip to the United Nations to officially become the first United States city to be a front runner, urban revitalization program, and then we're off and running from there.
You mentioned you had already touched on you'd hit 11 of the 12 things, or 11 or 12 of the things that they needed. You only had a handful more to go. Were those things done recently, or like how far back does that go?
Right.
Like I know there were prior administrations. Sure. I always point to the Lord Overpass, my biggest pet peeve, but I think now
we've gone back and forth on that a lot.
Yes, we have. And I will now tell you face to face, I was wrong, because
I want Putin next, by the way. Okay,
he may be a tougher one to convince, but as I saw that Gallagher Terminal design, that rendering, I'm like, now the Lord Overpass makes sense. And there's also other parcels of land around there that I'm like thinking, I wonder if this is up. So, but that went back, I think, to the Murphy administration, right? So this has been 10 years, maybe more. In the making?
I think it'd be foolish to say that we knew this Frontrunner City program would come along by being supportive of the Lord Overpass, right? But again, with how about things like walkability, right, and different ways of travel and transportation. There are things that have been going on for years that have gotten us to where we are. One of the things that I mentioned in Toronto the first time was, Lowell High School speaks 70 different languages. Lowell High School is the first high school in the country to accept both boys and girls. So conceivably you can go back that long, right, to say where we started to get involved in this, and then things more recently. We established a sustainability department, right, with a director, and data centers with the Mockley Group, and there are so many things that we have done that have led to where we are. It has really made us a prime choice to be the first urban revitalization city, front-runner city in the United States. So, and we talk about Teddy, the Industrial Revolution, right? Over 200 years. It's just all these things that it's a lot of hard work on the part of a lot of different people to get us to where we are today, and that's just where we are.
All right, well, so you guys may not have known about the Frontrunner City program, but there was a vision there that cities of the future, people like me, I'm stuck in the present, the past, whatever, but their leadership is about seeing what the future trends are before everybody else does it. And I do think that we've been very lucky in Lowell, between, now you guys and Manager Golden and even, some of the things that Manager Donahue did. And I think I'm going to go back to John Cox and Bernie Lynch. So I'm going to tell you about a conversation I was having yesterday with somebody involved with the economic development of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we were talking about, Lowell. And I was filling him in on some of the details of the Frontrunner City thing. And he said, I'm not surprised. He goes, back in 2003, you guys took a vote that no other city would have taken. He says, you built a garage in the middle of nowhere, he said. He was talking about the early garage. And nobody parked in that garage originally. He goes, that must have been a very difficult vote for that city council to take. He goes, but that garage spearheaded the courthouse and everything out in the Hamilton Canal, which still has some potential to realize. And he goes, but I remember thinking, wow, that was a ballsy vote, he said, and Lowell took it. Not many communities would take that thing. I said, well, they did another one during COVID. He said, I know, I was there. I was there, trying to help get that thing funded. But, these are kind of like, all these little political battles we have along the way, and even you reminded me of the battle over the parking enterprise fund, and most people are like, yeah, sell them all and whatnot. Nobody's going to build a private garage unless it's a guaranteed win like what Lowell built. But the city having the foresight to do it, to take that difficult vote, whether it was 2003 or 2018, 19, whenever it was, right on down to the, the difficult votes you guys have taken today, it set Lowell up for this situation to be a 21st century city.
I'll give you another example. When we were up in Toronto, the 7 councilors and a couple of members of the administration, when they presented to us, they knew that Lowell was an MBTA city. And they also knew that we were one of the first cities in the state to accept the MBTA program. And again, now you're talking about the Thorndike, the corridor from the Gallagher all the way down. And they knew the benefits of accepting that, right? And that's the stuff that, when you think about the greater good of the city, right, and not just, specific opinions of one or two, but when you take in the whole city and what we can be, what we want to do, that was a big time vote that we had taken, right? So, and then obviously when you get into one of the SDGs is higher learning, and higher learning for all. That was easy, right? Most community college offers a free tuition for your associate's degree, and the UMass Lowell, right? A reasonable tuition that gets into innovation, STEM research, and AI, which is coming right down the tracks pretty soon. So that was eradication of hunger. How are we doing that? Right. So I talked about the Merrimack Valley Food Bank for 10, 15 minutes, right? About all the stuff that they do. What we provide our students at the high school level, and so it's just at summer camps. I'll tell you a quick story. We're sitting, I think, at dinner on Wednesday night, and I had Cameron and Sam next to me from the UEF, and I'm just shooting the breeze with Councilor 𝐏𝐤𝐿. And they would talk about what's some of the youth that we do for some of the youth, and I said, well, get the perfect guy is right here, and Eric started talking about the Lowell Youth Leadership Program and what they do, and all of a sudden, Eduardo said, "Could we check it out?" And then Eric made a couple of phone calls, and he hosted them. I think either on Wednesday or Thursday morning.
So they heard about it and asked to check it out. It wasn't originally on the. No,
I did. So they just asked us, for children, what do you do to keep them active? What's we're a city. What do you do? Like, what programs are available? And again, Eric was just sitting right there, and he was probably talking tax rates. Who knows? But no, being a wise guy. But no, you're right. Yeah. But no, I mean, and they started talking. And then when I caught with Eric next day, I said, how'd it go? He goes, it was great. They checked out our robotics program. They checked out all the computer stuff that we do with the kids and stuff, So again, it just keeps on building that snowball to go downhill. And I really think we're in a prime spot to move forward.
Yeah, somebody had told me that made a big impression on them as well. We're chatting with Lowell Mayor Dan Rourke, getting a kind of a recap of the Frontrunner City visit last week, that international delegation that toured a good part of our city. Learned a little bit more about the origins of how all this came about. An amazing story. You got to get somebody to write the book with you on that, by the way. Other cities may want to know this. We'll continue the discussion and also take what's next, because it sounds like, from information I received, it's going to be very quick. Moving forward, and time will fly. We'll get the confirmations. We'll get some details from the mayor. Let me just quickly thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Boutin. Find them online, realestaterayBoutin.com. If you're looking to buy or sell a home or a business or a commercial property, that's the one you need to talk to. Thank you as well to WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to protect its most valuable assets since 1982. And the Massachusetts Pirates, they'll bring you all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. Final regular season home game, final home game of the year. Friday, July 25th, Pirates hosting the Western Conference leading Bay Area Panthers at the Saga Center. Get your tickets. If you want tickets, I got a bunch of extras here at Inside Lowell. Shoot me an email, teddypanos@InsideLowell.com or info@InsideLowell.com. and we'll get you on out there. Continuing our discussion with Mayor Danny Rourke. One thing I wanted to ask you, when you were talking about, you made that speech presented about the city of Lowell in Toronto back in September, were any other American mayors there? Was Michelle Wu there from Boston, or Eric Adams from New York? Were you the only American kind of representative in Toronto?
We were the only American city invited to attend and to talk about the city, right? Yeah, and to be honest,
that's amazing.
And to be honest with you, today I talk about it myself. I really do. You know what I mean? But again, it's just which is obviously a joke, but it's just it goes to show where we are as a city. And it's easy to complain. It's easy to say that, cut this or fill that, and those are all important quality of life issues. But when you take a look of where we are on the whole, and where we have been and where we want to go, we were the proper choice, obviously, in my opinion, to go forward on this. And, everything has worked out as planned so far. And, none of this would happen if we didn't have 100% buy-in from the council and from the manager. We brought in, some state reps who were there on Thursday. You were there with Congresswoman Trahan on Wednesday, and then obviously with the university on Thursday as well. The development community, the nonprofit organizations, and that's another interesting meeting too, right? Is they wanted to know what services that we provide, right? Our residents. And, by the end of the meeting, it was almost like a round of applause they gave, the UEF guys, right? Because they need to know, what goes on in the city. Joe Hungler talked about the Boys and Girls Club and their expansion, and how many kids that they can now take that they couldn't do it before. They charge $5 or $10 a year for the program. So it's just all those things went into account because we're just pushing to show off what we are, and all those things really turned out very, very well. And they were just as excited as I think we were by the time they left, which is, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and those guys they did their homework too. Clearly, when I was at 3 of 3 sessions. They had, we were fortunate enough to have lunch with them at the Athenian. But as you guys gave me an opportunity to present kind of the immigrant story and the business story and talk a little bit about downtown. When Eduardo got up to speak, he talked about the people of Lowell and the stories, and he talked about opportunity, everything that my family got to enjoy. I went the next day to the developers meeting, and all of a sudden his message was about return on investment and how we can help you achieve that. But he also said, look, we want local developers. We don't want to bring in international developers. This is about people who know the community, so he talked about that. At UMass Lowell, it was no return on investment. It was all about education and research and innovation. I imagine he had a meeting all about, equity and, social issues with the nonprofit organizations, right? This guy, for those who didn't get to meet him, this guy was a sharp dude.
Yeah, very
Eduardo Moreno.
Yeah, all 3 of the gentlemen from the UEF were great in their own way. You could tell early on that Eduardo was a man that was good at most of the speaking, and you saw why. He was excellent.
Well, he worked for the UN. He said he worked for the UN for 15 years before launching the Urban Economy Forum, right?
Yeah, and he's been all over the world. He's he's Nairobi and Mexico and France and Toronto. So he's seen not just the United States, but he's seen the world, and he knows what goes into it to get things done. And we were very happy that they were impressed with us.
Yeah. And he also knows how to get things done, as I kind of told
you think about it,
the conversation he had with Congresswoman Trahan. He just said, hey, politics, you can get around opposition, these ways.
He was very blunt to us too. He had said, look, this isn't a political thing, right? I have my own views, but this is not has anything to do with right, left in your country. We are here to improve the quality of life. That's all we care about. He did say, look at, we're not going to go to investors and say, hey, invest in this and you're going to lose half your money. He said, return on investment is very important. But I'm telling you, it can work here. Our ability, I think, to go up helps us. We probably certain sections of the city, you can't do that. But, it really was something that I learned a lot over the past 3 days. I'm sure you learned a lot just listening on a couple of days, right? And then even some of the developers I spoke to afterwards, he goes, wow, and I'm not talking about some small, some small development somewhere, 30 or 40. They want, streets and corners and, we talked about hopefully a trolley system going in from the train station down to, hopefully all the way down to the university, right? So there are so many things that I think we are in place that we want to hopefully achieve, and we are well on the way. And obviously, nothing's guaranteed, but we feel really, really good about things.
All right. What does all this, what's going to cost the taxpayers of Lowell? They're asking that question out there. We're going to end up on the hook for this, and someone else is going to come in and reap the benefits. What's it costing the residents of Lowell?
Up to this date, the only thing it's costing us is the time that the DPD department has put in to create presentations and the travel going back and forth. And that was like the $1 million question, I guess you could say, the whole time. Was where is it on our end? And they really didn't give us. There's nothing that they said, as long as you can provide the fulfillment of the goals in place, and present Lowell in the best way possible. We have investors. We have people that want to come to the city of Lowell. We know we do, and they're international, they're global. So it's something that, again, and it's only happened in 3 other countries, 3 other cities in the world right now. So it's really, at this point in time, you keep asking yourself, like, where's the hitch, right? Where it is. And we've been at this for almost a year, and I think it's just it's a group within the United Nations, the Habitat Program and UEF, that want a better world for its people.
Manager Golden keeps telling me every time I ask, like, have you found a catch? And he said to me, I keep waiting for the trap door to open. So every few weeks, has the trap door opened yet? And so far,
these guys, like you said before, they're not dummies. They know we can't put in 10, 20, $30 million, right? We are an urban city, that does what we can with the services that we can provide for the tax that we charge. So, they're not coming in here, expecting us to give hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to a thing that we just can't afford. So, and that's one of the first things they told us right away, back in November when we were there. So, they did say it's going to be some time investment. It's something that you're going to have to refine, the profile many times over. And, you're going to have to give presentations, and you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to earn your support, through funding. And, hey, let's do it.
All right. Photos emerged on social media of the Thursday night. They did dinner at Cobblestones. That was also the opportunity to meet the Lieutenant Governor, Kim Driscoll. I kind of saw a lot of how the local delegation interacted with them, which was, amazing. Congresswoman Trahan did a nice job showing, support from the federal level and the congressional level. How'd the Lieutenant Governor kind of do, talking about the state? And how much did she know about this coming into Lowell that night?
So Lieutenant Governor Driscoll was there, along with a Secretary of Housing and Finance, and she knew a little bit about it, but at the same time, you could also tell that she's a tactful, skillful politician, right? Because she was
the mayor of a city.
Yeah,
she knows how to play the game,
she
right?
was great. Yeah, I mean, she interacted and she asked questions, and by the end of the night, they loved her. I mean, it was and it helped us that she was there. It helped that Congresswoman Trahan was there on Wednesday. And what she had said was, look, at whatever you need from the federal government, please let me know. We're here to help and assist. The same thing from the Lieutenant Governor. She was wonderful. And again, it's what we talked about before. It's complete and total buy-in. And look, we have some skeptics on this council. I know we do, and I'm glad that they're there, because I'm glad that they ask questions. They want to see things. And at the end of those 3 days, to see, again, the total buy-in from everybody, it's great.
That's the word I heard Eduardo Marinas use a couple of times too, buy-in as well. That was what he found.
And think about it, right? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to have cities from other parts of the country. They're going to come to Lowell and see what they can be. When's the last time you said that about Lowell?
It's it's almost hard to comprehend, but it's starting to sink in, and I think other people are getting it. So that night that the Lieutenant Governor was there, I saw a couple of photos at the end of that. There were documents being signed. The manager, and Eduardo were putting your John Hancock on some documents.
Yeah, the next
what are those?
Yeah, so the next steps. So they want us. We have to, commit to completing that profile. We have to commit to down the line to, promoting the urban revitalization program to other cities within the United States. We have hopefully to go to the United Nations in Geneva in either September or early October to sign the official agreement on the world stage.
So you're you guys, a Lowell delegation, will be traveling to the UN European headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yeah, okay. So the council is sitting
You're
there,
gonna yodel while you're up there.
And again, we're just we're shooting the breeze and we're just talking. There's probably 6 or 7, 8 of us that are there and just mingling and everything. And one of the gentlemen from the UEF came over and said, "Hey, look at this is our plan. Would you be interested in doing this?" And I mean, it was just one of those, and we didn't give him an answer because we don't want to break any rules, but it was just one of those things where, it was wow, and we're going to talk tomorrow on a Zoom meeting and hopefully finalize some dates. And then obviously when we go to Toronto in October, it's a 3-day program, Teddy. They want to have one complete day just for Lowell.
This is the urban economy forum that you went to last year.
Right, yeah.
One of the 3 days will be about Lowell.
Just about Lowell, right? They want Chancellor Chen to be there to talk about her link projects.
They love Julie Chen. They absolutely love Julie
I think if she gives the same presentation she gave last week, I think people would be throwing money at it to say, hey, how can we get involved in this? And they're going to talk about, and I know our DPD director is going to be there. She's going to talk about the development goals. I know that there are members of a nonprofit community that want to go there as well. A couple of developers I talked to look for information on how to get up there. It's about housing finance. That's what the theme is this year of the UE7, right? UEF7. And then I'll get to speak about the city again and where we came from and how we get to the stage that we're at today in regards to the Frontrunner City program. So. Be great.
All right. And so how soon, the question that all the developers keep coming up and asking me is, so you probably know the answers. Yeah. I don't. When does the money start coming into Lowell? I've speculated that if they're coming to Lowell and you guys are signing documents and you're also proposing now, I know they're renderings, but they're project ideas, you could start seeing concrete steps and investments 2026 is the end of the year. Is the end of 2025 possible?
I don't think so. That 25, it's only a few months away. What they had asked of us, we have done up to this point. They wanted 10 different projects in the city that that can go, that are ready to go right now, that are permit ready, all those things. We have certain projects that they're ready to go.
Those are the ones that I kind of put that had numbers 1. Right, I didn't see all of them, but I saw like up to 8 or 9. I think. So,
yeah. So those
are the ones.
Those are the projects that we have in the queue that could be ready to go. Again, I said before, we have to complete and establish our profile. And what they said to us was, you have to be ready to walk into a room with 3 or 4 investors that want to come to the CLO, that want to invest in the city. You have to convince them, yes, this is the place to come. And, and we have access to their experts at the UN. We have access to their people that do stuff like this. So it's going to be a partnership between the DPD and the manager with the UEF folks. That's where we're at. They are hopeful that this is not locked in stone a bit, but they're hopeful we can have one major project to announce when we go to Geneva. Or when we go to Toronto in October. So I know that they're working on that now, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of suggestions that I made. But again, if they align with all the goals that are in place, they had told us, and you will get investors and you'll be ready to go. So
they have said they have people. I assume when you're an international investor, you've got a lot of money, right? So they know about Lowell. They already know, and they would invest. And like, you mentioned that you'd be kind of getting help with the UEF people and Frontrunner City people in making these presentations. So
we have access to all those experts, all those people that have done this before, that have been through a process. And that, again, that's something that Giovanni and Camille will be working with these folks to do. And it's almost like wishing for a Ford Escort on Christmas Day and waking up and getting a Corvette. It really is. It's wonderful. It really is.
It's unbelievable stuff.
I'm glad that you, Teddy, were there. I'm glad that Melanie from the Sun was there. I think the 2 of you just finally got a chance to see the real chance of what could happen. And again, I know sometimes when people are just talking about it and seeing things, that's kind of tough. But I think you can tell me to be there and to actually witness what happened and to see what could happen, probably even change your mind a little.
I thought I knew. I thought I grasped early on that this was a big deal. I started looking at photos of Regent Park, Mission Hill,
Regent Park,
Mission something,
Richmond Hill,
up in Toronto. And I'm like, this would be a nice modern look. But actually, the first time my eyes were opened a little bit at that luncheon, and just to hear Eduardo Moreno, but when he spoke to the developers thing, I'm like, wow, these guys are good. And then Julie Chen put the cherry on top. with her performance. I almost got the sense that these guys they have working relationships with MIT and Harvard.
Yeah.
I almost got the sense that they were like, we may not even need that in Lowell because we've got UMass Lowell, and now I think, did they offer to like have UMass Lowell collaborate with them in like Mexico or in Lisbon, right? Portugal, or wherever.
We're talking about leaders and people that know what they're doing. How about Marty Meehan, right? When he starts talking, he goes, look, we partner with colleges all over the world, right? We have relationships with, I think, the University of Paris. We have MIT, and he said our chancellor has 3 degrees from MIT. And, we talk to Harvard all the time. And it was really, that was exciting to be a part of, just sitting there and listening and seeing what could possibly be done. And they were just so enthralled with what the possibilities are.
Yeah, there was one funny moment where Eduardo had begun his thing by saying, I can already have 4 things in mind that we can collaborate on. And he started rattling them off, and it was always yes. And then somebody, I forget, I don't know if it was you, the manager, or Marty Meehan, screamed, what's number 5? Yeah. Keep going.
And you never see President Meehan at a loss for words, right? Yeah.
I almost feel like he had a man crush. I'm feeling a little jealous. Eduardo's my man crush, not Marty Meehan.
I think, like I said before, I'm looking forward to hopefully sending a large delegation up there into Toronto in October. I hope all the consuls that are available to go. I hope that the university, and the chancellor can get up there. I know the manager and his team will be up there. Again, it's another chance to show off what we're doing.
Can we get media up there? Well, I got an updated passport.
When I went last year, April and I, we walked into a room that was probably half the size of this. And it had like a cot in the corner, and the bathroom was down the hall. So
you were telling me they put you up in a dorm. I'll take a dorm.
I know, it's okay, right? Yeah,
as long as I can get a media
I wasn't complaining. So yeah,
hell, we'll do the Daily Pulse live from a presentation.
Yeah.
We don't care. All right. Great stuff at the Frontrunner City. Congratulations to you and everyone. And I know you're given a lot of credit, but I wonder how many people would have taken that trip to Toronto in September, or hell, even sat down for a 2-day interview, let alone a 5-minute interview with something called Capital Analytics, which none of us had heard of before last July. So
and look, if the council,
take a bow as well. You deserve it.
If the council wasn't all in, if the manager wasn't all in, we wouldn't be here. So it's just, we talk about team efforts. That's what it is.
All right. Rourke Bridge. Last night, you met Mass Department of Transportation was there. Were they making a presentation at this point, or were they kind of still seeking input? And how concrete is that design that we saw that went out to bid and Skanska bid on for $273 million? How concrete is that bridge project? Is it going to happen by 2028, as I think is the target date?
They start next month. That's what they said. They've had a barge out there, or what do you call it, that taking samples over.
My kids were asking what that was.
Yeah, I've taken some soil and water samples over the past number of weeks. That's almost wrapped up, and they are ready to go. So they expect construction to start August, September, and they showed us a phase in of the process. And I thought it was a tremendous. They did a great job last night. There was 5 or 6 of them that were up there. They split up the presentation. They took questions and answers from the community afterwards, and we are locked in and we're ready to go. So it's another exciting thing going on in the city.
So they've been doing the board. Did they do more than one?
Oh yeah, they were doing meetings all along the way. When I spoke to them, I praised that their transparency, their openness for suggestions. And it was really well done.
Skanska knew enough to do more than one.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know how wide their scope was, but I guess it's pretty.
Well, they were allowed to do more than one. Yeah. So they're going to start actual bridge construction or surrounding land prep work next month.
Yeah, it was. They explained the process a little bit of how it took us to where we are today or last night. And they're going to start. Facing the Rourke Bridge from Middlesex Street. It's going to be to the left. It's going to cross over to the old, I apologize. It's going to start on the Pawtuckaville side where the old water treatment plant was for the city of Lowell and come across. And they're going to open it up right next to the entry to the Rourke Bridge on the Middlesex Street side. Mm-hmm. And, I know one thing that I probably didn't pay attention to earlier was that area now where you get off the Rourke Bridge from Pawtuckaville over to the Highlands, it's going to be a park area with benches and places to have activities and trees and like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's cool. and it really, all the precautions have been put in place. The mitigation of traffic, the mitigation of small businesses. They're not going to interrupt anybody's sidewalks or things like that. There was a noise concern at the charter school, but they said they have testers in place. It's going to be still far enough away from the school, and they'll be monitoring as well. So everything, they seem to have checked all the boxes going forward.
I didn't even think of that component. Then again, all due respect to the charter school people, they got their approvals to do an awful lot of work. They shouldn't complain about a bridge. And the bridge will ultimately go from Middlesex Street, Wood Street to Ferry Road, right? A direct run there.
You'll be able to get off either way of the VFW highway and then funnel into Old Ferry Road.
Straight into Old Ferry Road. Price tag. Is it still $273? I heard $290 something.
They had said as of right now that they don't expect. It was funny. One of the guys did say this is not a renovation, which I thought was the line of the night. But
somebody from Scanton,
maybe from the DOT. But again, it's the budget is set. 80-something% of it is federal money that's already been secured, already been funded, so that's not in jeopardy at all. And a lot of the balance comes to the state grants and whatnot, and we're ready to go. So it's something that again we've waited a long time for. Traffic will open, I think, two ways, just 2 lanes back and forth in 2028. All 4 lanes will be open in 2029, and a full completion of the bridge by early 2030.
All right. So the funding is committed. There was some concern back when we saw that projects were being put on hold.
Even if someone wanted to take it away, you couldn't do it.
It's there.
Right.
Okay. And the state is okay despite its kind of budget challenges with whatever they have to pick up.
As I said, every dollar that's appropriated for the project is locked in place.
Where does it come from if there's an overrun?
Yeah, that's a question that was asked, and I guess I apologize. No, that question was asked, and what the gentleman from the DOT said was, we have built in overruns into the project cost.
Okay, there are folks who go over the Rourke Bridge all the time now. So you just said 2029. Sounds like they'll be using the existing Rourke Bridge through 2029. Any plans to keep that in a condition where people will feel safe?
Yeah, and they said it last night. They said the DOT representative said the Rourke Bridge is safe. Because we can't.
People insist it's
right.
not.
Right. People say it's not, and that's fine, right? And because it is safe, they have appropriated money over the next couple of years. I think $1.5 million. Again, for the upkeep and the regular, the cleanliness and the safety and all that other stuff. There's money budgeted for over the next couple of years just for the existing bridge, and then they just. And again, everybody, like you said, I don't like going over it and this and that, which is totally fine. But they said over and over again that the bridge is safe. There's money already in the budget, not on our budget, but in the state budget to address any needs that are there.
And then it will finally get torn down when all is said and done. Did anybody think about keeping that as a bike path?
No, because there'll be bike paths on both sides of the new bridge.
Could have saved some money on the new bridge. Let the old one be the bike path. But all right, so again, where's the trap door? You get Frontrunner City moving along. The bridge is finally coming. Where's the trap door?
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of good things going on. Nothing's ever perfect, but we're in a good place right now.
All right, I'm gotta find one level of controversy then to end on. You were the only vote against cement sidewalks. You wanted to take away cement sidewalks for a neighborhood, a street that had cement sidewalks. So one thing I was a little confused on. Did they actually redo them with asphalt?
They were supposed to be.
They were supposed. Okay, so
the whole street's being redone.
Okay, but it didn't get redone though with asphalt. Okay, because I'm thinking, are we going to really dig up something that we just did? No. All right, so why were you the only no vote? Why did you vote no?
I respect all the councilors that voted for it, and I understand where they were coming from. If we do it on Barrowswood Street, in Belvedere, we better be able to do it on Adams Street in the Acre. We'll be able to do it on Shaw Street in the Lower Highlands. That was my contention. Just because one street or one neighborhood should not have an advantage over the other just because of what zip code you live in, and that's where I came from.
All right. Your colleague, Councilor Scott, said the same thing, and I was fully prepared when the roll call came for her to be a no vote as well. She ultimately voted yes.
Okay, there is some credence, I believe, to we had cement before, which we have now. And again, you heard a lot of people talking about it. The real only difference between asphalt and concrete is the price. the longevity of it and like the structure and the safety. It's it's all
even the
safe.
climate thing that some folks address. It's actually I found documentation that especially the newer, the permeable asphalt is far more friendly to the environment than cement. Somebody brought up a really good point. I forget which counselor it was. Is we should probably have a citywide policy on this, because if you start taking it on a street by street, project by project thing, you're going to run into these things, and folks are going to say, hey, yeah, as you said, no, this isn't equitable. We're not doing the same thing for one as the other. Is it time for the city and the folks who do this to come up with a, pardon the pun, concrete policy for how you will redo roads going forward? No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah. Again, it's above my pay grade. We established on last Tuesday night that the cost of concrete over asphalt is 20-25% more. So, if that policy is put in place, we're going to have to take away from other areas, so maybe some streets don't get paved on time. Maybe, there's delays in here or there. But it is what it is. And, that's why we vote on things.
All right. Lowell Mayor Danny Rourke, as always, thank you for coming in again. Kudos to you and all of your colleagues and everyone at the city who made the Frontrunner City stuff happen, and who will finally be able to realize the Rourke Bridge. Well, we're actually going to see construction a month from now.
Starting up.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. That's Lowell Mayor Dan Rourke joining us here on the Daily Pulse. By the way, special Inside Lowell podcast will be dropping later today. City Manager Tom Golden will be here. We'll talk a little Frontrunner City with him, but we got to really start to talk about other things with him. Lowell High, how that's going to get paid for, other things happening in the city as well. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by Patrick Sullivan. He's got Lowell roots. He was also the former general manager of the New England Patriots. His father, Billy Sullivan, part of the Sullivan Brothers printing family, owned the New England Patriots. He'll be joining us here along with Chris Boucher, who's written a number of articles about Bucky Lou for Inside Lowell, wrote a book about Bucky Lou. So we'll talk about all of that. And yeah, we're definitely going to talk pro football with him. Friday, Leslie Boder helps us wrap up the week here on the Daily Pulse, the show that keeps its finger on the pulse of Lowell and the world around it. Till next time, everybody stay safe, stay cool out there in this heat wave, and I'll see you on the other side.